You said it. Why don't you own up to it? Which you call some of the members of the Supreme Court evil. Now, which ones do you think are evil?
I would have to refresh my recollection. I've been very critical
You're
of some members of the
that
Supreme
you made
Court.
that statement, aren't you?
I'm
You're an
Senator,
officer
it
of the
doesn't sound
court.
like something that
You know
I
what
would
I'm
say.
embarrassed at? That you're teaching our kids.
I don't refer to Supreme Court justices as evil in
the
classroom,
on
sir.
your podcast, April 22nd, 2024.
Okay, well,
Big as Dallas. And you're an officer of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful to federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon. You're part of what's the problem in all of this.
A U.S. senator just accused a top legal scholar of helping destroy the justice system. In a Senate hearing that's now going viral, Senator John Kennedy tore into Professor Kate Shaw, blasting her for political hypocrisy, exposing her shifting views on court power, and confronting her with a quote where she allegedly called Supreme Court justices evil. This wasn't a debate. This was an all-out takedown. And if you're someone who cares about truth, who wants the games in Washington exposed, listen closely. Make sure you subscribe right now, because this kind of thing doesn't show up in your feed unless people like you demand it. And send this to one person who still thinks the courts are above politics. Let them see it with their own eyes.
Would any of you advise a client to defy a federal court order?
No.
None of you would? How about you, Professor?
I mean, under most circumstances, we follow the government and private parties follow court orders. I suppose it's not, I would not rule out ever the possibility that in a sufficiently egregious order, there should be some consideration of whether there's a way.
So in some cases,
I think it's a qualified answer,
in
yes.
some cases you would.
In an extremely narrow band of cases, I think it would be considered, yes.
Okay. Do any of you think that nationwide or universal injunctions are not being abused?
I'm not sure what if I may, Senator, I'm not sure what the time horizon of the question is. I don't think that there could be good faith disagreements about the correctness of some of them, but I have not seen in the last 4 months abuse. No.
I've read your stuff, and I've read your writings. I don't want to get bogged down with this, but I have little respect for your opinion because I've read your stuff. When someone is in the White House that you agree with and someone gets a universal injunction against him, you don't like universal injunctions. You called them judges acting like they're politicians in robes and judges looking like crass political actors. But now that President Trump's in the White House, who you dislike, you think that universal injunctions taste like pumpkin pie. So I have to discount what you say because I think you act on your political beliefs. And I worry that that's what you're teaching your kids. So I'll leave you out of that. Let me ask you about this. What if we had a rule? I was reading an article the other day. I'm not suggesting it, I just want your opinions. That said, if a president, any president, issues an executive order, let's say, that clearly violates settled Supreme Court precedent, that a federal judge can't issue a nationwide injunction. For example, if a federal president issued an order that said no one in America has right to counsel any longer, including but not limited to, in a felony case, having the government pay for your lawyer if you can't afford it. That clearly violates settled Gideon v. Wainwright. In that case, a judge has no authority or does have authority to issue a nationwide injunction. But in a case where the law is unclear, a judge should refrain from that. Now, obviously, we'd have to trust our judges, but we're supposed to be able to trust them anyway. What do you think about that?
It all started with one question. Would you ever tell a client to defy a federal court order? Everyone on the panel said no, except Professor Shaw. She admitted that, in rare and extreme cases, it might be considered. That was all Kennedy needed. He pounced, calling her out for setting a dangerous example as a legal educator. Then came the deeper issue: nationwide injunctions. Are they being abused? Even Shaw agreed they are. But Kennedy wasn't satisfied. He pointed out how Shaw criticized them under presidents she supports, but defends them when they target leaders she opposes, like Trump. He called it what it was: political double standards. Said she only liked injunctions when they were like pumpkin pie. And then everything exploded. Kennedy pulled up a direct quote from April 2024, where Shaw referred to Supreme Court justices as evil. Shaw denied it, claimed it might be a transcription error. Kennedy read it back, word for word, and demanded she own it. Then came the final blow. Kennedy accused her of promoting respect for judges in public while smearing them behind closed doors. "You're part of the problem," he said, straight to her face. Was he right to expose the double standards? Or did he go too far?
I think politicians have helped judges, and many judges are politicians, to just make it up. And many of them are like Professor Shaw here. If they like the president, they're against nationwide injunctions. If they don't like the president, they're for him.
If you think more people need to see this, subscribe right now. Don't let this stuff get buried. Comment your thoughts. Share it with someone who still trusts the system without question. Because the mask just slipped